So, greeting. Uh, I have written a book about Zarathustra's philosophy. Zarathustra's philosophy in new perspective. That is the name. And with both languages Persian, my mother tongue language, and also English, my Canadian language. And they are in one book, but I also have separated them, and I am making videos of them separately and upload on YouTube. I have finished the Persian version already, and now I'm going to start the English one. Let's get to the book. Okay, here is the cover of the book, Zarathustra's Philosophy in New Perspective. And my name is here, and also the year and the name of the faculty. However, let's just skip the the legal matters pages, and there's a piece I have written before starting the book. Zarathustra, the genius philosopher, in the parentheses, prophet for Zoroastrians, was the first scholar to legislate the human ethics of this Persian/Iranian glory. Many stories and tales must be told. In a series of written lectures, the writer has examined the words of the man who gifted the khrat, in parentheses, intellect, wisdom, to the human, and human to the khrat, and both to the fountain of wisdom, God. Here is the contents of the book. The book is in 3 chapters, and there's a prelude and also an epilogue. We should get to it later. The first 2 chapters are a little brief, explaining the structure, the skeleton of the Zarathustra's philosophy has to be told, must be told. And then the 3rd chapter, which is longer than these 2 chapters combined, has 7 sessions, not sections, sessions, which I have presumed myself from the Zarathustra's Gathas, and then Zarathustra's citations, Gathas, and we discuss them academically and scientifically. So we read the book together. So let's get to the prelude. Okay, prelude section. In the name of the God of soul and wisdom, the focus of the writer is solely on the philosophy of Zarathustra. For example, like a Greek who would interpret the doctrine of Aristotle, the writer brings up a series of the great master's teachings as a value set that enhances the human life and reflects the uniqueness of God and God's great gift to humans, the wisdom, the way it is deserved. This letter has 3 parts. In the first 2 chapters, the writer points out the basis of the discoverer of the wisdom, Khrat, and in the 3rd chapter, the writer goes deep into the doctrine of this great scholar and philosopher, and beholds the universe of being the way he has observed, and gives senses about the flames of our magnificent life's energy the way he has sensed, to the world of vigilance and true science and the concept of knowledge and the human, and bonds all to the unique God, the wisdom, granter. Or this is just one small effort to make the soul of the great master joyous. The writer has used the quotes of the Gathas edited by Dr. Khosrow Khazai, famous as Pardis, in 2006, and entirely, and has used the quotes of Avesta, the holy book of the Zoroastrians. Avesta from Jalil Duskha's 1992 book. Here's a quote from Dr. Peterson, Canadian psychologist and professor. Our life should have a meaning to give us positive motives and senses. Otherwise, the so many negative motives and senses that are already in us will destroy us. We make our decisions based on a set of values in our mind. Okay, now we are going to start chapter 1. So let's go start chapter 1 and the discovery. Chapter 1, the discovery of Khrat, wisdom. Session 1, conception. Receiving the 5 rules. What was the philosophy of Zarathustra? What was he saying? The first world's philosopher that regulated, coded, and standardized ethics and gifted to the world, what was his doctrine? When Zarathustra had become a mature adult man, he used to wander in the beautiful prairies of Persia, today's Iran. A man of thought and pondering was noticing that all the peripheral world, the earth, the moon, the sky, the day and night, all are in motion in a precise order. Then he observed the other entities, the animals and the planets and the plants. He was seeing the plants blossom, grow, propagate, either by winds or birds or animals' feces. They spread, they get consumed, and then again, this circle is always on with the same flowing constant energy. Emotion that never stops. Notice then this circulation also applies to the animals regarding that they also have souls and limited wit. Likely they are for the sake of somebody to come, grow up, have offspring, hunt or be hunted, then leave, and this cycle continues. It's likely for everything they are. It's likely for everything they are programmed. Suppose that the fish gets out of egg and does a series of activities and disappears, and chances are he would never know it was always swerving underwater. So goes for other entities. Then told himself, I'm a human like one of them, since there are many programmed processes in me. My heart beats, my blood circulation, my respiration, and all are automatic, and I have no control over them. Apart from this automaticity, I have to satisfy constantly my hunger, thirst, and other needs. And I get older every day. But when I'm in my leisure time, I start pondering about the sun, the earth, the sky, the clouds, fire and wind and air, the galaxies, and the universe. I ponder. I'm here, but the whole world is in with me too. Zarathustra gradually discovers the Khrat, which is wisdom, intelligence, conscience combined for the time being. He says there is something in us, humans, that is not in any other entity, and that makes us distinct from all other animals and entities and everything else. We are not just a living being. Yes, we are physically, bodily programmed, but there is an essence in us that is unique, which they don't have, and named it Khrat. So Zarathustra discovers Khrat. Khrat is a Persian word that it is impossible to translate it to the other languages. We can't say Khrat is wit, intelligence, smartness, or concepts like that. What Zarathustra of Khrat means is something beyond this materialistic world. It is the same thing that when we are in leisure time, goes through the galaxies and explores. goes to the mountains and prairies and thinks about everything that makes the living better, better tools, better discoveries, and all in all, better ceremonials. To make it simple, Zarathustra says, if we take away kharat from human, the person becomes like a cow or sheep. You know, cow and sheep are prey or predator, like a bear. Does everything as programmed. But it is not the human we know. This physically weak human with kharat is so mighty that can approach the God. More about this later. Zarathustra becomes metamorphosed 3,700 years ago. He declares our kharat is a gift to us from the unique God. Zarathustra, or Zartusht in Persian, then said to himself, I, as an entity proportionally 1,000 times weaker than an ant, how can I be more superior and higher than everything with this kharat, the gift? Then he asks the question, why? Why this gift is granted to me upon birth? Why did I come, and from where? What is the purpose? And this is the moment the philosophy of Zarathustra is born, the philosophy of question and answer. The entire philosophy of Zarathustra is questions and answers. You ask, and you yourself extract the answer. And the aid of the kharat, wisdom from now on. I say wisdom from now on. The first mind battle started. He ponders this question, why? Days and months, why? Then he, based on beholding the course of life, wonders what this wisdom does for us. This wisdom constantly provokes us to get ahead for exaltation towards bettering life, constantly pushes us to do better farming, taking care of tasks better. That makes us more joyous and happier. Then he figures that this bettering and eloquence is for us to become happier. Smiling is anti-crying. We will get to the contradictions later. Wisdom is in us to be happy, joyous, and fortunate. Zarathustra finds the first answer for the first key question. Seeking the essence of happiness in everything is what wisdom is to do. Zarathustra becomes even more metamorphosed and heads to the beautiful Persia's mountains and prairies. Legends say he spends about 10 years alone, 3,700 years ago. Zarathustra comes back with 5 solid rules, laws regulating ethics as the world's first philosopher who did that. Dr. Khazoi has mentioned these rules, and I must emphasize here promptly. These laws are not like judicial laws, are founding principles. And please pay attention, these 5 rules are the basic of this philosophy. I mean, these 5 rules apply to the basic of this philosophy because everything is based on this humane concept, big main concept first, and then we go from here there. So the five main laws or rules or principles. Rule 1: the world is the world of antitheticals, such as warm and cold, up and down, harsh and soft, left and right, truth or lie. Rule number 2: these antitheticals without each other don't exist, don't have meanings. Sweet gets its meaning from bitter, and without sensing the cold, warm wouldn't be known. Just or justice without injustice does not have any meaning, and vice versa. Rule number 3: these antitheticals, the opposites, only and only by the existence of a human occur. It means the presence of a human is prerequisite and imperative for the antitheticals to develop, since they are all concepts that human being makes. There is nothing without human, because there won't be human kharat. I mean, as I mentioned, consciousness, awareness, wisdom, all of them. A fish in the water or a cow in the grassland never make any concepts. There is no concept in the moon. But immediately after Neil Armstrong, the American astronaut, says foot on it, concept making starts. Its soil is soft. Its atmosphere is cold. Oxygen is insufficient. Things are light. Gravity is weak, and so on. Rule number 4. Human makes these concepts with free will, inevitably. And it is 3,700 years this element is subject to debates. But Zarathustra made it logic. He actually founded the logics. Rule number 5. Human is directly responsible for the concepts and decisions he or she makes. Because their consequences, their consequences before everything else affects the individual first. So we go for the session 2 of chapter 1. Session 2 is the battle of good and bad, and also triple ascending pillars. We know that the world of Zarathustra was the Persian world. It means he had a world view, and many of our today's Persian myths, such as Jamshid, or Hushang, the discoverer of fire, or Feridun, who divided the world between his 3 sons, Salm and Tur and Iraj, were myth for him too. He would consider world of Persia as the world, and therefore he would consider the world of Persia as actually the actual world, and therefore he believed a worldly role for himself. Zarathustra has established the basis of the knowledge of ethical philosophy, and the fact that many of our compatriots consider him prophet is fully respectable. However, my study here is particularly an academic approach to his philosophy, which I have discussed in chapter 2 and 3, mostly chapter 3. We notice that the philosophy of Zarathustra is the philosophy of questions and answers. Zarathustra asks, how could we constantly prosper? This wisdom is in us. This wisdom in us is with purpose and is privileged from a fountain head. Provenance. This provenance is innate, a force and energy that is reciprocal. Innately, it is always retroactive with the fountain of wisdom. While it is beyond the materialistic world, it is in our nature. Zarathustra called this fountainhead of wisdom provenance that had granted us the gift, the world of Ahurai, godly, also Khodai in Persian. Structure. The great Ferdowsi, our great poet, ancient poet, called it the God of soul and wisdom. Why the God of soul and wisdom? Correct. Why not just the God of soul? Why not the God of soul and wisdom and all the beings and the cosmos? As Zoroastrians believe that God first created the 4 elements of fire, water, wind, and soil, then animals, then the plants, and then humans that are the most perfect creation. For the human, by the power of wisdom, would then make all these concepts. Why the God of soul and wisdom? Here we have to get back to the 3rd rule of the 5 primary laws. Presence of a human is prerequisite, imperative for any concept, either thesis or antithesis to be made. There was nothing before wisdom, and everything after is a mystery. Everything gets objectivity and existence by wisdom. Therefore, Zarathustra says the God of soul for all the creatures and human, and the God of wisdom for only humans. Then all the concepts will be made by wisdom. We see that Zarathustra establishes the foundation of monotheism and praise and exaltation of the unique God. And why praise and not worship? The fountain of wisdom is to be praised and exalted, as the wisdom that is in us as a constituent of God is to be praised. Therefore, human has the most importance after God for carrying constituent. For this reason, in this philosophy, not in the Zoroastrian religion, which is out of my qualification to state any opinion, there is no worship. Because by worship it will be contributed partially to humans themselves as carrying the constituents of Kharat. And no human can be that self-absorbed and worshipped. It has no place in this philosophy. Of course, calling God believers, God worshippers is customary. At that time, the East and West parts of Persian world were polytheistic. And so was the Persia, which was ended. This matter was ended by Zarathustra by the notion of unique God. According to Zarathustra, two forces, Niki, which is goodness, and Badi, which is badness, are bad in Persian and English are exactly the same. Bad. But badness is Badi, goodness is Khubi ya Niki, or Niki. We get to it. And see, these two forces, goodness and badness, are integrated in our wisdom by God and are named Sepenta Menu and Anglo Menu. Yes, the root of the word angry in English is from the Anglo Menu. Yep. Zarathustra asks another rhetoric question. Why the fountain of wisdom has integrated these two forces in our wisdom? Why not just the Niki, righteousness processes that end up to goodness collectively? I have to mention here the quatrain of Khayyam, which I hope conveys the message of the virtue Niki and vice Badi in man. This is how I'll translate. Khayyam has said Niki and Badi, but here he means virtue and vice. Of the virtue and vice in man, of the grace and sorrow in just and fate. Kneel not to this revolving dome, wisely, for it is untiresome rolling, 1,000 times poorer than you and me. By revolving dome, he means the universe that is revolving all the time. The sun, the earth, all. Khayyam was a polymath. Also, he was a poet and also a philosopher and also a mathematician and also an astronomer. We have to go to the 5 main laws. Rule 1. The world is the world of contradictions, antithetical. The human makes concepts of both using these two forces, and to distinguish them, Zarathustra emphasizes seeking knowledge constantly to better distinguish good and evil. Human is in this world to aid the God. For this must be able to make better concepts. Everything is the concepts that we make. Even this human. A bear sees us as other bears who either would make us go away or keep the distance from us. Concepts such as a snake, dog, cat, and so on are made by us, and other animals have no cognition about this concept. More about cognitions later. For example, you can name a dog sheep and condition it to respond to that name. And by the way, I said the bears sees us as other bears, but I recommend very, very small people. They may see them as food, so don't get that close to bears. According to Zarathustra, the whole world universe is moving in the right direction, and we have no choice but making the right concepts to join the convoy, jump on the wagon. Therefore, constant learning is imperative, and this wisdom, Khirat, hasn't been given us for free. It is upon us to guide the world, environs around us, to more advancement with more happiness and fortune. According to Zarathustra, if you make yourself happier, if you make the other people happier, you will make the God happier. The triple ascending pillars. Zarathustra's teaching indicates that for synergism and getting as close as possible to the fountain of wisdom, the process that our wisdom automatically with the intangible energy practices, because it is from the source and has tendency to the source, we have to acquire knowledge and update ourselves all the time in order to comply right acts with the right thoughts. But how? Zarathustra upon three pillars, which help us to ascend to the fountain of wisdom, that must be synchronized and harmonized in our mind. All three coordinated to make the right concepts. He names them the right words, the right thoughts, the right deeds. In Persian, گفتار نیک، پندار نیک، کردار نیک, which A is off. گفتار نیک، پندار نیک، کردار نیک. As noted, Zarathustra had a good understanding of the world and believed that the world was moving in the right direction by a steady energy. The fountain of wisdom, God, had shown this to us by granting the gift. Zarathustra was attributing the discovery of wisdom, Kherad, to all humans. Then we had to do the same, since then we are aware and can choose the right path. But why bother? The God is keeping in the right direction, everything anyway. He answers, if we, having this wisdom, not always try to make the correct concepts for the advancement, it affects our physical state of affairs and takes us practically towards lies, wrongdoing, inaccuracy, and dishonesty. These wrongdoings causes malfunction in the right functioning world against the intention of the Creator. It is then a matter of principle to use the right words to clean our thoughts and behave decently towards everything. Imagine a coat pole rack standing on three legs. The absence of any leg causes the coat pole rack topple. Thus spoke Zarathustra. Only human being can cause malfunction in the universe, because human being has kharat, has wisdom, and makes decisions. Based on Zarathustra's teaching, every man or woman makes his or her own concept version of these three pillars with free will. Keeping these three always in mind and applying them in daily life ascends the man or woman closer to the fountain of wisdom. We must trust our wisdom as we trust the fountain of wisdom and seek knowledge. This wisdom has been given to us for distinguishing truth from lie. Zarathustra, in his Pentad Gathas, deeply explores these questions and answers. And emphasizing unique God, the Gathas will be explored more. So this is the end of the session 2 of chapter 1. All right, we go to session 3 of chapter 1, the 6 illuminators. 3 sextet illuminators, footsteps of the envoy philosopher. Six illuminators that are mentioned below are necessary to be familiarized in order to better comprehend chapters 2 and 3. Illuminator number 1, Urdibehesht, which means rightness. Erta in Achaemenid era, Hachameneshi in Persian. It is the law of motion of everything towards light. Fire, sun, any light. Anything accompanying it is good, anything against it is bad. This word and Greek words, archy and anarchy, unrightness, which means unrightness, anarchy, have the same roots. In Persian, we do use anarchy that we got it via French, which pronounced anarchy. It's kind of went to the Romans and they came back to us again. Illuminator number 2 is Bahman, which means rightly thinking, guides us through the rites and customs and correct manners of living. Human reaches this illuminator by free will. Free will will be discussed. Will is missing. So. Illuminator number 3, Shahrivar, self-hegemony, empowers us to overcome destructive feelings. Illuminator number 4 is expand, which means serenity. The consequence of Illuminator 3. Illuminator number 5 is Khordad, eloquence, the power of improvement and maturity. The world universe is expanding and increasing and advancing. We are here to aid the Creator in this process. Only human has this task. Only human has this task. The concept of evolution will be discussed based on this philosophy, but it is necessary to briefly mention here that the innate physical evolution of the creatures and particularly human is rejected by the consideration of the core of this philosophy. And just can be considered mere hypothesis and theory. As I mentioned, these are all my presumptions, my understanding of the Zarathustra's gathas. Illuminator number 6 is Amordad, which means immortality, the power of being eternal. The world of Ahura Mazda, God of soul and wisdom, is immortal. Anybody who lives with the doctrine of this philosophy and these principles ultimately joins the verse of songs and melodies that is called Pardis. Gathas of Zarathustra are also hymns and anthems. The names of these illuminators at present are the names of Persian months. Dr. Khazai, 2006, has narrated that the first 3 illuminators are the attributes of the Creator as soul, and the other 3 illuminators are reached by a steady faith to reach the circle of eloquence towards the fountain of wisdom. The circle of eloquence, simply put it, there's a circle of eloquence, and here what it is. These are all explanations for you to understand the philosophy. These are the foundation of this philosophy. Simply put it, Ahura Mazda, Khuda, God, is in the center. The 3 pillars are pillars of the right words, thoughts, and deeds are around it. And then the 6 illuminators are around all. Now here is the circle of eloquence. According to Zarathustra, these forces are integrated in our wisdom as gifts of the Creator. He called them mantra and practitioners mantran. Zarathustra founded the first Pars, Persian assembly of Magai Mogan, wisdom seekers. In Persian, Mogans, but in English is Magai. Wisdom seekers, which had debates around identifying the realities and rebound and shed the superstitions. A point about free will. Thomas Hobbes states, a free agent is he that can do as he will and forbear as he will. And liberty is the absence of external impediments. That's what Thomas Hobbes is saying. According to Zarathustra, opening our eyes to this world is not in our hand, and closing our eyes is not in our hand either. But looking at this world with right, bright eyes is in our control. This means free will. Why? Nothing is written or fated. We ourselves make the concepts based on our knowledge and bear the consequences. Then ethical principles are for healthy life and necessary, and path is only one path, the rightness path. By reading Zarathustra's Gathas, we can presume free will in several places. Also, we can presume that Zarathustra means the creation of God is incomplete and is still in progress. Still many solar systems and galaxies are being created, and we sense this process with the energy that we see in the suns. Now we know there is many suns, but at that time there was only sun. No. Therefore, the sun is the main symbol of the Creator, God. And therefore, the fountain of wisdom hasn't wanted to be the Almighty and write our fate and life course and our thoughts beforehand. We are given the gift to distinguish between rights and wrongs ourselves, and by making correct decisions, help the Creator, and in this matter, we are completely free. Either choose the right path of wisdom and God, or the path of lie, which named it Ahriman. We have Ahurai, and then we have Ahriman, which is against that. See, everything has contradictions. Free will is the power of capacity to be selected between alternatives independently. Zarathustra indicates every man and woman has to freely make decisions for any action. For this reason, the person has to hone his or her knowledge and expertise for that particular act, not to be dictated how to. Afterwards, the person who has required the related knowledge, if chooses wrong instead of right and lie instead of truth, has insulted his or her conscience aside, has taken the fountain of wisdom's God judgment on their question. Free will is presupposed with moral responsibility, the fifth primary law, and is proportional on the basis of knowledge and expertise and possibilities. We learned from parents or teachers, for example, that eating banana and orange is good in the winters and peaches and plums in the summers. But if you are in an army camp and the only option is apples to take, you would comply. Free will depends on circumstances too. Zarathustra taught us to do the comparison as a practice for our pondering. The writer has made a comparison between Zarathustra's philosophy and Plato, the Greek philosopher's doctrine. It helps us to understand Zarathustra better. Several Greek philosophers had some similar teachings, Epictetus the most, but Plato was chosen because of some contradictions between his philosophy and Zarathustra. Zarathustra and Plato comparison. Zarathustra believed that khirad, wisdom, guidance of intelligence, vigilance of conscience is gifted to us from God for finding, search of the truth, which is the happiness, fortune. Truth and fortune are parallel. In the Plato's doctrine, guidance of human is virtue, which shows us how to reach fortune. Zarathustra's find against Plato's how. Zarathustra's find indicates constant advancement to have a better and better life continuously. There is always better ways to live. But Plato's how stops at what may satisfy you as a good life according to your expectations. On the ethics side, Zarathustra puts the intellect in the center as connected to the main source, the fountain of wisdom. He nicknames it and therefore to the universe. He believes two forces, the virtue and evil, are integrated, instituted in it. It is up to us to follow the virtue, to make the right choices, to live as a good society. We must be right doing. Plato, on the other hand, believed that anything that has a character, usage, or function has a virtue. Virtue is whatever that enables human being to live a good life. As he links the happiness with virtue, it completely opposes the Zarathustra's view that separates the right and wrong, whatever's, and encourages humans to find the rights and promote them and avoid the wrongs. Zarathustra states that between the two forces of justice and truth, Serpento Manu, and evil and lie, Anglo Manu, or Druj, or Druk, the human being has been given free will to choose. Free will is embedded in our intellect, born with us, nurtured by knowledge. That is why the finding for happiness has no end, because knowledge is always in process. On the other hand, Plato's view of virtue and happiness is rather more mechanical, physical, than Zarathustra's intellectual view. Plato states that the soul has three parts: reason, which desires the truth and good of the individual; spirit, which is preoccupied with honor and competitive values; an appetite which additionally is concerned with taste for food, drink, and sexual intimacy. Zarathustra views the soul as the carrier of the intellect, the heavenly gift. There is no need to mention that the intellect is both the reason and the spirit that Plato mentions. Zarathustra believes that by training the intellect, which is a duty, we make it able to perfect the social arrangement for a right social life, and setting rules and regulations for everything, including physical living needs, respectfully food, drinks, matrimony, and so on. These two great philosophers had both indicated the way to get a better life and truth. The difference is that Zarathustra's view from here, my opinion, is more logical, while Plato's view is more idealistic. Zarathustra focuses on intellect at the center, while Plato places virtue as the main focus. Zarathustra has the dialectic view of the constant human being's wisdom, challenge between good and evil, while Plato states that it is the virtue that gets affected by reason, spirit, and appetite. Doesn't Plato look more idealistic, while Zarathustra looks more realistic, pragmatic? So what was the doctrine school of Zarathustra? Was he a pragmatist, realist, or humanist? Looks like all of them. A great pragmatist, a true realist, and a great ingenious of innovating humanistic values. But he certainly was never an idealist. Here we end chapter 1, and then we go to chapter 2. All right, let's start chapter 2. Chapter 2 is rightness, deliberation measure. Session 1 of chapter 2 is the rightness and correct measurement. Zarathustra states in the Gathas, O Creator, do grant me in both worlds, corporeal as well as paradisiacal, the recompense which can be achieved only through truthfulness and would make happy the faithful ones. Grant me so that I will also reflect to others. If you remember, we learned that Zarathustra, after wisdom discovery, created laws of ethics as the first ethical philosopher. A citation from the Gathas. I just had my dinner. Oh, wisdom giver. May all people listen to the intellectual sage who would bring prosperity and in thoughts and words and deeds, show delight and strength, and the one who in the light of your wisdom will be just through measured judgment. Correct measurement, evaluation of the situation, time, and surroundings. And well, according to the ethical rules that we learned, is there an absolute right? No. Is there a correct measurement for doing right? Yes. Are all the measurements of a particular situation the same? No. It depends on the person's knowledge in a particular situation at time. Herodotus, Greek historian, wrote, let's consider the way Persians, Iranians at that time. Herodotus lived contemporary to the Achaemenid Empire, Persian Empire, Achaemenids, 2,500 years ago. Let's consider the way Persians, Iranians at that time make decisions. In order to make an important decision, in first assembly, they drink wine and then warm-headed make the decision. But put it aside, the next day they assemble again, and this time they soberly review their decision. If it is still reasonable, they legislate it, or vice versa. Interesting proof from historic text. This is what, as measured, Zarathustra calls scaling truthfully and just. The writer calls it status quo. I call it status quo. This is the same as the assumption of Nietzsche, that there is no absolute standard of any right or wrong, that human being could show by reason. To call a concept knowledge, it needs four conditions: to be justifiable, true, believable, and no other example to void it. If not, call it presumption. I mean, I say that. Why we say this is a science? That four condition, it's a common knowledge. Why we say this is science and we need these ethical rules and regulations? Someone might ask, we understand better at present time or somebody who lived 3,700 years ago. This argument for a scientific fact is baseless. As we said, Zarathustra was first and foremost a philosopher and intellectual who created the first ever ethical laws in human history. The mistake many make is that they look at him only religiously and disregard his philosophical doctrine. So this is the end of session 1 of chapter 2, but I have to explain something. I was listening to one of these Dr. Peterson's interviews with a lady behaviorist. She was saying that when you talk to someone and you open your hands in front of you and with open palms and open hand, talk to someone, they trust you more. Why? Because 15,000 years ago, 20,000 years ago, 25,000 years ago, when we were living in the caves, if you would enter in the cave, like hands here behind, they would scare and go away. Because they might have thought that you would carry a spear or, I don't know, a shaft or a stick or a rock. But open-handedly, you would enter the cave. They would trust you and listen to you and accept you and everything. 15,000 years ago. Now, this is this is science. This is science, and it's a scientific fact. They're using it right now, and because it's true. If you open-handedly talk to someone, they trust you more. That's what psychologists say. So what I'm saying was Zarathustra and his philosophy was 3,700 years ago. Many of them are scientific facts. All right, let's go to session 2 of we know that algorithm, we know what algorithm is. A scientific term that was named after Khwarazmi, Persian mathematician. Its innovator, via Arabic, getting into English, got prefix ALL, like the in Arabic. Other suits, Exir became elixir, Jabr became algebra, Chemia became alchemy, coal became alcohol, and so on. Those were all Persian words, but via Arabic went to the Roman languages and then English. Via Arabs, that's why they got Arab, like the. How do you get 25% out of 400 without a calculator? You divide 400 by 100%, you say percent, 100. You divide 400 by 100, result is 4, then multiply 4 by 25, the result is 100, 25% of 400. Now this is easy. What if you want 25% of 2,454? Same thing. 2,454 divided by 100, the result multiplied by 25. The result of that result will be 25% of 25, 24, 54. 2,454. This is some kind of algorithm, a formula to find results. Does it have those four conditions of the science? Of course. It's justifiable, true, believable, and no other examples to avoid it. The ones involved know that the basis of computer programming is algorithm. Then just because it has been innovated 1,000 years ago doesn't make it obsolete. Another example is Persian solar calendar composed by Khayyam, Persian polymath, 1,000 years ago. Was quoted by Georgian or Gregorian, as we say in Persian, by Georgian calendar, and used by Christians too. What was used, is being used, and will be used for millenniums. Science based on knowledge is perpetual. Do we consider Zarathustra's scientific philosophy knowledge? Is this the basis of our belief? Let's verify it. We know that there are three pillars that guide us to the Ahurai, Khodai, godly epicenter are good thoughts, good deeds, and good words. This is almost the only meaningful term we heard from Zarathustra when we were a child. But good in Persian is khub. It's not nik. Nik is the right. So the three pillars are the right words, the right thoughts, the right deeds. These are more resonant. Persian speakers know what niki is. You see, good in English, in Persian is khub. Like this is good, in khube. Khub. Right is rast. So the Zarathustra has emphasized rast all the time, not good. However, niki, nik, when we say nik, it means accepted, adjusted, rightened as good as possible. So Persian speakers know what Niki is. Well, we Persians know what Niki is, you know. We also have the word rust for right. For example, right hand, that's the rust. It is in our DNA. Our great poets such as Khayyam and Ferdowsi and many other have mentioned it in their poems many times. Good by itself is not enough. When it becomes the right one thing, concept, decision, then it would be unique. The world scale gives us a better combination here. When we say something is weighed, scaled, it means it is somehow accepted, even if it is not absolutely perfect. I use the word scale because with scale you can add or lower the weight till it is the most suitable for the party. That is Nick level. Nick is rated good. Our ordinary life may look good, but is it Nick? Is it Nick too? Remember, salvation is in Niki. It is interesting. It is interesting that in policing and security administration reports, good has no place. Words such as secure, sustained, maintained, protected, and so on are used. So we have this treasure. We have kept it in our heart. It is integrated in our culture, but we don't open it to use it. By we, I mean non-Zoroastrian Persian speakers. Because you see, we do have still Zoroastrian as a religion, Zarathustra as a religion, we still have Zoroastrian religion. We still have people practice it. But Zarathustra belongs to all of us Persians. In fact, he belongs to the world. But mostly Persians, just like other great Persians like Ferdowsi, Saadi, Hafiz, Molavi, Khayyam, Rudaki, and so on. He belongs to all of us. I wonder if now we tell Europeans that Zarathustra, by saying Nik, did not mean good, but the right, or as I like to say, status quo. Would they be surprised? Wouldn't that beam a completely new perspective on Zarathustra's philosophy? Since Zarathustra gave us this gift 3,700 years ago, there has been debates around ethics until present time. Ethics always have been a challenge, but the peak start of it was in Europe and Renaissance era. Europeans were dividing ethics into three categories: meta-ethics, such as God's will and universal truth; normative ethics, such measuring right and wrong acts; and applied ethics, such as judicial punishment. These three agendas often would get into tensions with each other. The matter was what was right and who or what had it. Some, such as Samuel Clarke, emphasized that ethics would be developed only in the mind of God. Some, such as Friedrich Nietzsche, who was the founder of Zarathustra, believed superhuman would develop her ethics by self-reliance. These ethics doctrines, as you see, argue a section of Zarathustra's philosophy. But knowledge, one of the main poles of this philosophy, with the consideration of those four conditions, is our wisdom's equipment that constantly evaluates everything and chooses the closest to the Niki, rightness, which results in good fortune. From Gatha's citation 3, clause 9, may it be for us to be of the ones who renew and refresh this world each and every moment. It is a maxim of constant verification that our wisdom does of the surroundings to make the right decisions towards eloquence. Advises us that our wisdom is never idle or stagnant. and its foundation is to better us. Zarathustra compares this knowledge to fire, luminosity, a citation of Gathas, inasmuch as better would be life for who paces through enlightenment and enlightens the life of others. O Ahura Mazda, here it means great awareness. With your limitless wisdom, in the light of righteousness and the knowledge generated from neat thoughts, four conditions met, reveal to us so that we can have a long life full of happiness and delight. Now, what it means is prosperity and happiness results of the right deeds, which contains both corporeal and paradisiacal worlds, and also what hedonists desire. In today's political philosophy, getting too much to the right wing is considered anarchy by some. But from this philosophy's view, it's not considered anarchy, but carelessness. Going astray, aimless, meaningless living is considered anarchy by Zarathustra. But the right way is also regulated by ethical laws and emphasized that it is the only way. Our wisdom, while driving our life, must control the sensitive steering wheel all the time. From the moment a person's heart starts beating in the mother's womb till the moment of leaving this world. This bears the question. This book I have written is full of tips of icebergs, and this is one of them. So I just mentioned here the tip of the iceberg, but in the future, hopefully we can get to this iceberg. But this book is full of icebergs, and these are the tips of the icebergs, and this is one of them. What I mentioned here. This bears the question that should a pregnant mother keep the heart-beating embryo and consider abortion an act of anarchy? This philosophy says yes, in my opinion. But the free will of the pregnant mother and her control over her own body is respected too, as we see. This is a debatable issue. And then we get to session 3, the free will at the beginning. All right, we are at the session 3 of chapter 2, free will. Zarathustra has indicated free will all over the Gathas. Citation. Tell me, O great wisdom giver, who cultivated this power of self-valor. Does it mean free will? Self-valor? Accompanied with serenity, and who wisely tied this string of love between parents and children? That's a rhetorical question, which the Gathas are full of rhetorical questions. Enter John Locke, the 17th century English philosopher, the founder of libertarian school. He stated that one natural law in the natural and independent condition exists, that no one should offend and violate anybody else's life, liberty, and possessions, considering being just from the beginning. This is the basic natural law, first condition of being human. He also stated while people should be free to accumulate wealth, there has to be some kind of limitation to leave room for others. This is the wise scaling that Zarathustra mentioned 3,700 years ago. Presumption of meritocracy. Another philosopher, American Robert Nozick, in 20th century, stated that only a state, means government, as minimal as possible, can justifiably support the law without violating people's rights. He was fond of Kant, saying people should be the end, not means to reach the end. He believed that the free trade should be kept even if it creates inequality, with the condition of being just from the start. Zarathustra's philosophy may appear conservative. If conservatism is making wisely decisions and scaling all the options, then yes. But if it means fear of any risks, then no. Zarathustra clearly considers hasty and rushing acts as anarchy. Also harshly prevents apprentices to communicate with lawyers and insincere individuals. Citation from Gathas. O men and O women, know this. Lying destroys life. Therefore, abstain from it and do not promote it. And know that the joy you obtain from deceiving others will cause you suffering, which is considered anarchy. In conformity, Machiavelli, in his book, The Prince, states Cyrus the Great, or as we say in Persian, we say Cyrus the Great, had to wait till all Persians would become discontent of the Medes in order to start unifying the Persians and ultimately creating that vast empire. We gather from the philosophy of Zarathustra the constant measurement and scaling is a perpetual challenge. There is no superlative in reality, but just a figure of speech. Everything is comparative. Nothing is the best, but better at the momentum. Our intellect is in the perpetual challenge to make this world better. It is programmed this way. If we prevent this process, it would be anarchy, and it is uniquely human's duty. That is why Zarathustra considered humans so superior entities who, by the power of Niki, expel all the filthy shells of superstition from the minds. Is it easy? Never. Is it possible to be better? Yes. The more knowledge, the better. Now, as I mentioned, chapter 2 was a brief chapter. Now, from now on, we get to chapter 3. Chapter 3 is a long chapter, and most of the point of this book is in chapter 3. All right, we are at the chapter 3, and chapter 3 has a premise. I had to write it, and we'll see why. Chapter 3 is the Gathas and the epiphany of 7 prophecies, septet prophecies. This is a little piece, poem from the great Ferdowsi, the creator of Shahnameh, literally king naming, but famous for the Epic of Kings. This is a piece from the section of admiration of wisdom. در ستایش خرد. Behold at this fast revolving dome that propels both cures and pains. Not that it ever gets eroded by circling, nor ever gets tired by this labor. Not that ever slows down the motion, nor ever deteriorates like us. Consider perseverance and reckoning from it. Thus, it is the observer of both virtue and vice. I hope it conveys the message. Virtue and vice is the translation of Niki and Badi. Okay, here's the premise. What is intellect and who is intelligent? Aristotle, the most influential philosopher in the West, stated a phrase that seems to be inspired by Zarathustra. He said, the best form of philosophy is contemplation about nature. That's why God created humans and granted them a godlike intellect. He means wisdom, probably. All else, such as strength, beauty, and honor, are marginal. We know that Zarathustra considered purposeful contemplation as a search for finding joy and fortune, which are God's purpose, and strength and beauty and honor are concepts that uh, emanate from Sependum Anu, which is directionally principled, and which is integrated in our wisdom. Aristotle was Macedonian. Macedonians and Hellenics in the Ionian territories were similar to Persians and Medes in Persian territories. They had twin Greek language but different dialects. When Plato died, he migrated to Assos, where his friend Hermias was ruling, married one of his wards named Pythia, and helped Hermias to make alliance with Philip, the Macedonian king. Assos was one of the satraps of Persian Empire, and that alliance makes the Persian king Artaxerxes III angry. He hires a Greek mercenary named Memnos from Rhodes, a Cyprian island. Well, it's Greek, but it's around Cyprus, to capture Hermias. Aristotle tries to hinder Hermias, but he doesn't comply and captures Hermias and takes him to the Persian army capital, Susa, the second army capital. The first one was Isfahan. Aristotle never forgets Hermias' suffering and betrayal of Memnos, and the capturing order of Alexander Artaxerxes III. 1 year later, Philip, Macedonian king, appoints Aristotle to tutor his 13 years old son, Alexander. Have a wild guess what happens. Probably the first matter that Aristotle planted in Alexander's mind was the conquest of Ionian and Persian territories. He made Alexander so ambitious that when, after conquering all the civilized world of his time, all Greek colonies and the expanse of Persian Empire, declares himself divine and demands the Greeks prostrate before him. Interestingly, Aristotle's nephew, Callisthenes, who called himself a Greek, opposes to Alexander's demand and revolts against him, but he gets delivered into a plot and ultimately executed. Aristotle, after Alexander's death, flees out of Athens, avoiding now angry Greeks, and dies incognito in Chalkis in northern Greece. I have to tell you something. You see, Greek has a province right now named Macedonia, and we have a bigger Macedonia as a country outside of Greece. Now, that piece used to speak Greek, and they are Greek, but thousands of years, more than 2,000 years. Then once the Romans captured those areas, that Macedonia adopted an Slavic language. Now they speak Slavic, but the country is Macedonia. That's why the Greeks ask them to call themselves Northern Macedonia, North Macedonia. So I had to say that. The Macedonians inside Greek province of Macedonia, no, they speak Greek. They have their own accent, but they speak Greek, they are Greek. For the founder of Western philosophy, Aristotle, his sense of nationality was the most valuable and highest sense. The sense of nationalism is the most necessary sense in an individual. It has been subject to harsh, unjust, unfair, and unrelated treatments. Iranian, Persian nationalism, though, is conflated with mehr, which means it's a Persian word. It means amor or unconditional love. More about it later. Let's proceed to what is intellect and who's intelligent. Zarathustra's philosophy of the power of our wisdom, kharat, indicates seven summons or callings, respectively. One, making questions and finding reasonable answers. This is equivalent to acquiring knowledge. An answered question is a known concept. Known equals knowledge. Two, clashing the ideas to make a reality. This is uh, similar to thesis, antithesis, and synthesis of the Hegelian philosophy. But here, our intention is one of our wisdom's qualities. Three, proof of existence of everything by its opposite, counterpart. Four, words, converting thoughts into words and vice versa, choosing correct words and correct usage of the words. Five, unrestricted thinking, no limit for imagination pondering. Creative thinking. Six, ever distinguishing right and wrong, archy and anarchy. Seven, identity. Before getting to the seven summons, let's elaborate the uniqueness of wisdom, intellect, and conscience combined. We notice that Zarathustra discovered the wisdom, khrat, and therefore made human distinct from all other non-humans. And the two potencies, Sepenta Manu, goodness, and Angra Manu, badness, which have been integrated in it, and the rule that concepts exist at the presence of a human. The inevitability of being armed with three pillars, right thoughts, words, and deeds, was mentioned. And the six illuminators, rightness, rightly thinking, self hegemony or free will, serenity, eloquence, and immortality. Reader friends, or listeners, the only philosopher who has mentioned that wisdom is a heavenly gift of God to only human is Zarathustra. Aristotle has briefly alluded it, and no one else. And also, the mystery of human survival with the power of wisdom. But Aristotle claimed human as a logical animal, meaning animals have wisdom too. Zarathustra considered human being a unique creation. Everything else, including animals, were God's creation and their place in nature is respected. Aquinas, the 13th century Italian philosopher, has said animals are illogical because they are not free. Descartes has said animals are thoughtless and soulless machines because they can understand language. John Locke has said animals can't think because for the understanding of the mundane matters, there is a need for words. Voltaire and Hume have said there is no argument. We see inside the minds of our cats and dogs when we play with them, just the way we see our infants' minds. But no one ever mentioned, when speaking of infants, never mentioned why we don't remember anything before we were 4 years old. And our wisdom starts recording after that age. I've never seen anybody ever who would say, I remember something when I was 30 years old. Either it's 4, 5, 6. The main agenda is the cognition ability and heuristic ability, and the dual process of the cognition structure in human. These are all referenced at the end of the book. The references are there. You see something, then you determine what it is. It's a dual process of cognition. We all know English naturalist Charles Darwin and his theories of evolution and natural selection. Everything he did without considering the human being distinct with wisdom seems, my opinion, otherwise, but respect for everybody, seems futile. Some points. It's all about not just accepting everything, just someone says that you see. No, it's just all theories and theories. Okay, ideas. But we have to clash them, we'll get to it. Natural selection towards perfection. Why the immune system of the human beings never became stronger. And yet, it got even weaker. What kind of evolution is that? Darwin himself mentions that the smallest microbes, which many animals are easily immune of, can kill human being without proper sanitization. In fact, we are here because of Al-Kharat. He never clearly explained that is human being a worker entity or a toolmaker entity. He never distinguished the animal's instincts and did not separate that from the human intelligence. He has stated the human being is from low origins, meaning descended from animals, but has godly intelligence. But he never mentioned that how could human beings survive at all without this intellect? Zarathustra's philosophy indicates that human being would not have the survival ability without God's gift, wisdom, khrat, and no concepts, nothing. If there is anything, it is because a human has made a concept for it. His ideas of evolution, Darwin, are respectable as just idealistic, not facts. He marries his cousin, which doesn't comply such with natural selection, despite the fact that it can be done nowadays after some genetic examination. He had also many other speculations which seem mere theories. Jane Goodall, the ethologist who has lived with chimps and gorillas for years, she's famous with National Geographic, has written, because chimpanzees in their habitat strip twigs and plunge them into the termites' holes to fish them out, we can say they are rational. Do they act any other rational behavior about anything else other than eating? Or this is just nothing more than a conditioned behavior? In another event, the examiner reassessed monkeys by placing two eggplants in front of them and then replacing one eggplant with a picture of an eggplant. And because the monkeys would stare more at the picture, I can't stop laughing when I read this. We get to the human brain. I'll just give you some tips of the icebergs that what's happening in our brain with our kharat, wisdom. Just because the monkey has stared more to the picture of the eggplant instead of eggplant itself, they say, oh, it's making a concept. So what? First of all, we can ask the monkey what he's thinking. We can't talk to each other. We have to presume something. Second of all, so what? The monkey distinguishes the picture from the, the vegetable itself. So what? Why we insist so much in order to get close to animals and find human being in the animals? There isn't. And we get to that, why not? Wasn't it just a change of observation? In all the researches in fields of psychology, biology, anthropology, animal welfare, philosophy, and animal studies, no one discipline or method is associated with animal cognition. Disciplines and methods are specialties of human wisdom. Animal behavior, be it of a predator or prey, is out of instinct, not conscience. Can we say when it started? Well, this philosophy gives us an idea, frankly. Everyone is looking for answers. Me too. But this philosophy gives something. To me, People find their answers many places. I found here. And the relation between me and the Persian ancient Persia, well, it's a little bit of a relative because I'm Persian. The fact that chimpanzees couldn't learn the language is not because they don't have the talking ability, but the lack of wisdom. Every word is a concept by itself, which is structured by several concepts. You know, the letters, and is served for a purpose. Reading the mind of others and developing theories in mind is only possible through human wisdom. Khrat. To have a speaking, now listen to this. I have printed with bold fonts. To have speaking ability is genomic. It needs a set of genes that exist only in humans. And it is transferred motherboard. I have to tell you something. Okay. Well, what do you say about this? I see Zarathustra says Khirad is something that is gifted to us, and only a human being has it, and without it, we couldn't survive. Some of you may deny it, and a lot of you don't deny it. Okay. So what do you say about this? The talking ability, language, is genomic, which means it needs a set of genes that only human being has it, and it is motherborn. And from mother gets to the child. Now, this is science. This is a fact. And only human being has these genes. Why only human being has these genes and no other animal or anything else? Don't you think it's a gift? And it is science. And the reason for it, the fact for it, I'm talking, you're listening. That's the fact. We can't see him. We can't see the words. But we say it and we hear it. So it's science. Italian ape researcher Povinelli states that he has been convinced that the apes can't reason the unobservables and can't understand causation. All relevant areas of philosophy, including action theory, agency, belief, concepts, ethics, consciousness. Remember this agency, we get back to it. Consciousness, culture, epistemology, folk psychology, imagery, language, memory, mental causation, mental content, modularity of mind, perception, personal identity, practical reason, rationality, and so forth. All the specialties of human mind, printed in bold letters. Of the beginning, for the ones who believe in this doctrine, human history, revolving world, all entities, elements, everything have become concepts after the discovery of human wisdom, intelligence, wisdom, consciousness combined by Zarathustra. Everything before it is mere theory and speculation. And everything after that, if it is documented, can be realistically verified. And if not, accept national myths and customs, mythology, and customs and rites and symbols, which are national identity, connected to national identity, are idealistic. Other than that, everything else are idealistic. Now, I finished the premise now here, and then I start from the session 1. Making questions and finding answers. Session 1, making questions, finding answers. Known equals knowledge. Let's get to it. The foundation of Zarathustra's philosophy is questioning everything and developing answers. It's never-ending challenge in the human mind that fuels this invisible and intangible gift in us. A few citations from the Gathas. The Nick, which means right here, the Nick thought descended upon me and asked, "Who are you and whom you are from?" And in the life's daily bewildering and facing the world and yourself, which way will you take? Now, life has to have a meaning. Dr. Jordan Peterson, Canadian psychologist, states we have to find a meaning for our life. Meaningful life fills our lives with positive senses and motives. Otherwise, the many negative senses and motives and thoughts that are already in us will destroy us. This paragraph is somehow an answer to the rhetoric question of Zarathustra. Another citation from Gathas. The Nick thought faced to me and asked, "Whom do you praise?" I answered, "To the righteousness I praise, and I will seek that as long as I can bear and resist." Praising the righteousness is a self-inspiration, a never-ending search to give us hope and energy and meaning. Righteousness is the first illuminator or guiding light. Another citation, the Nick thought asked, "What is your wish?" I answered, "Long life, for to be victorious against the wrongdoers." Long life is realized by righteous name, the immortality. Another citation, who brought the dawn, noon, night to existence from the void to make a calling to thrive in the name of wisdom. Now, I have to tell you that these translations are all mine. I'm very, very, very particular about translation, and I prefer to translate something that myself from languages, especially from Persian to English and English to Persian. So these translations are all mine, and I have to tell you that. As you see, these questions are all rhetorical. Another citation, who is the one who developed the power of self-achievement, accompanied with serenity? Rhetoric. Again, self-hegemony and serenity are achieved in humans by the power of intellect. By meditation, pondering, speculation, human with the power of wisdom controls physical provocation, which is the first cause of reaction in animals. This meditation I say here is different than any kind of other meditation. It just means serenity and thinking in serenity. Question and answer from Gathas. Citation, how can we stay away from those who live a lie and turn their faces away from rightness? The answer, the illumined mind told the dark mind, we have no compromise regarding customs, rights, beliefs, wisdom, and discourses, and deeds, and conscience, and soul serenity. In the former sections, it was mentioned that Zarathustra very distinctly rejects the unjust, unright, and anarchy. The property is the rightness. Anything other than that inevitably ends up to gradual destruction. Please pay attention below to a segment from Avesta, the holy book of the Zoroastrians. It seems that it could be one of the last parts of Gathas. There are familiar rhetoric questions, probably is inspired from the Zarathustra and Gathas. Because my concentration mainly is on the Gathas from Zarathustra himself. O fountain of wisdom, what are you? The fountain of wisdom answers, O Zarathustra, first, I am the head source of knowledge and awareness. Second, I am the grantor of hearts. and cattle. Third, I am the mighty, mighty. Fourth, I am the builder of all archy. Fifth, I am the mark of all gifted, pure bred archy of Mazda, universal wisdom. Sixth, I am the Kharat, or intellect. Seventh, I am the Kharatman, intellectual. Eighth, I am philosophy. Ninth, I am the philosopher. 10th, I am sacredness. 11th, I am the sacred. 12th, I am Ahur, Khuda, God. 13th, I am the strongest. 14th, I am the out of wrongdoers reach. 15th, I am the invincible. 16th, I am the everybody's reward giver. There is never any punishment or obligation. This explanation is from me. Obligation, wrongdoing, and lie and felony will regenerate punishment within. 17th, I am the everybody's guard, and the Khairad wisdom granted to us to protect us. 18th, I am everybody's doctor, rightness is with healthiness. 19th, I am the creator. 20th, I am known as the great knowledgeable, which is Mazda. There are terms in psychology that help us to utilize our mindfulness about these procedures. Well, I have to tell you what I read above right now. These are all concepts. That's what it says. It means that the fountain of wisdom gifted us this kharat, wisdom, to make these concepts. These are terms in psychology that help us to utilize our mindfulness about these procedures. For example, Freud considered critical and analytical thinking as a specialty of an intelligent person. This challenge of question and answer can be found in other faiths and philosophies too. But the one who asks and the one who answers are two separate organs. In other Caucasian philosophies, we have historic tales that people would gather around the respondent philosopher. For example, Greeks around Aristotle in Athens, or in Agora around Socrates, or in Stoa around Zeno, and also in Romans, in Rome around Cicero. Now, in Abrahamic religions, which is Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, with all their branches, the same trend was customary, for example, between Moses and followers and Jesus and followers. So was in Persian Irfan, which in English is mysticism and Gnosticism, which was developed after the spread of Islam with the Islamic basis, but inspired by ancient Persian tradition. Our great Persian poets such as Hafez, Sadi, Maulana Rumi, and so on were the apex of the trend. But in the Persian text of this book, some example of poems of Hafez I have mentioned. Even from Ferdowsi I have mentioned. This is Zarathustra's magnum opus. Only in Zarathustra's philosophy, an individual poses a question, and by the very him or herself, with the power of knowledge and unique pondering, finds the answer. This is what he himself demands for immortality and being remembered forever, which occurred for Zarathustra himself. In psychology, we have two distinct abilities in human intellect: problem-solving algorithm and problem-solving heuristic. Algorithm is a procedure that is guaranteed to produce a solution if it is followed formally. When you follow it in a certain way, an equation to find results. Heuristic, on the other hand, is informal and intuitive and speculative procedure. It's common knowledge. Algorithm has got its name from the great Persian mathematician Khwarazmi. Or in the English, probably say Khwarazmi, but they don't have khe. It is of the magic of human mind, khrad, that has a reflection in math, where human being goes the seemingly impossible way to find a possible solution. Here is an example. A common stock with an annual dividend of dollar $0.25 is paid while the market value is $15 a share. What is its current annual dividend yield? Annual percentage yield. If you want to divide 15 by 1.25, well, there is no wonder. It seems possible. There are several 1.25 in 15, 12 to be precise. 12, 1.25 are in 15. But our equation tells us differently. It says divide 1.25 by 15. Seems impossible, but this is the formal way. When we divide 1.25 by 15, we get 0.08 and 333, infinity 3. The ones who know the procedure know the result is 8.33%. Take 0.0 off, and then 833 becomes 8.33%. The ones who doubt just multiply that number to 100 and get 8 point infinity 3. Only 2 threes after 8 are into account, and the result is 8.33%. This is annual percentage of annual yield. As you observe, this is finding the answer through seemingly an impossible way. This is some kind of algorithm. And heuristic is finding out or discovering by some assumptions. For example, you get out of the house and you see the sky is cloudy, full of cumulus dark clouds, and the air is breezy, and you think of rain, despite the fact that there is no rain yet to be seen. But you think of rain. That's heuristic. Only human mind has this ability. Human mind has the ability to organize data, called schemata. Organize representations of things or events, such as for attending a sporting event, planning all the steps in advance. We have two main kinds of reasoning: induction, pairing someone with something, and deduction, which is a contrast to deduction. Realistic thinking, creative thinking are all specifications of the power of human mind. Now, try to find any of these terms in an animal. So now we get to the session 2. All right, let's get to session 2. Clashing the ideas, making reality. Khrad's application. In Zarathustra's philosophy, idealism and fiction have no values. But confronting the ideas to make a synthesis or fact is encouraged. Citation from the Gathas. Behold, the twin inherent paradisiacal elements which emerged from beginning. One reflects rightness and the other badness. The wise chooses rightness and the fool badness. False guidance has blinded the eye and robbed the path. I instruct from fountain of wisdom, righteousness. Before the great event of selection, listen to all ideas. Every man or woman then choose the closest to rightness. Another citation: "O universal wisdom, under your guidance, the two illuminators of self, hegemony, and immortality can be achieved." By the way, my apology for my Persian accent. We don't have theta and delta, so I have we all have difficulties with that. Anyway, here we see without a doubt that Zarathustra, without wisdom, the gift, doesn't consider anything as a concept. Nothing is humane without it, and no human is worthy. The essence of humanity without it. See the following clauses. Citation from Gothas. The Kharatmand, which intellectual wise, says, do everything on the basis of unique, scaled thoughts, and conserve the righteous customs which are the foundation of serenity, confidence, knowledge. Knowledge generates confidence, and that brings calmness, not agitation. And nowhere the ray of the fountain of wisdom is shining. Wisdom appears. Another citation: by exploiting wisdom, I renew my life's perspective. Another citation: these principles, with the radiance of your granted gift, will remain with us as long as your ongoing creation remains. The premise is that God's creation is ongoing at present. More entities, more solar systems, more galaxies are being created. And we are here to aid the Creator. This citation: happened that always you would adorn my words with wisdom and enlighten me the right traditions of yours. A professor of McGill University in Canada, Henry Mintzberg, performed a strategy test and found out that only 10% to 30% of the intended strategy is realized. Mostly because the intended strategy to realization loses the deliberate and emergent parts. Intellect in the dictionary is meant the ability of the mind to correctly conclude true and false, and also how to solve problems. The word intelligence is from the Latin word intelligence, meaning inter as between, and legere to choose, or smartness. Well, these all mean understanding, but that is the difference between Zarathustra's Khirat and all this. What is the difference? What Zarathustra is saying is the basis of our belief that our intelligence is under our Khirat's control. Khirat is in us to promote us. If we trust it, we can develop a power hundreds of times more potent than what we ordinarily have as intelligence. Nietzsche, who was fond of Zarathustra, had figured this out very well by innovation of his Überman, Superman. It is Overman, which means also Superman in Germany, in German language. It is our Khirat that makes horseback riding a part of our daily life, or easily, or smooths our intuitions to play any complicated instrument, or solve the complex mathematical problems, or adapt our brain to life challenges. But we make it powerful with knowledge. The more the better. That's why Zarathustra is against superstitions, because they idle the brain. Thinking with idle brain is like walking in a swamp. Without Khirat, wisdom, intelligence, conscience combined, humans, if ever, could survive. Presumably, Zarathustra emphasizes on humans' inability to survive without Khirat. Would at most accommodate themselves to the environment, but with Khirat, humans do both. Accommodate themselves to the environment and also adjust the environment for themselves as desired. So we are done with the session 2, and then we go to session 3, proof of existence of everything by its opposite. All right, let's get to session 3. Proof of existence of everything by its opposite. Zarathustra starts these dual effects of a phenomena proving each other's existence from the two integrated heavenly forces in our kharat. Remember, do you remember the wise chooses rightness, the ignorant chooses badness? Wise and ignorant give meaning to each other, and so do rightness and badness. They are proof of the other's existence. Observe this citation from the Gathas. Then, O God of awareness, with your infinite wisdom, light of righteousness, reveal to us the knowledge that is manifested from the unique thoughts so that would make our life long and each day happy and graceful. Here clearly infinite against limited, righteousness against deviation, good thoughts against illusion, long life against short wandering, and soulless day against happy day are distinguished to give each other meaning, definition, and proof of existence. Another citation. It is the fountain of wisdom who, by the unique thoughts, brought to us the non-existent happiness and serenity to existence, and created the righteousness norm so that it would guard the unique thoughts. O God, which Ahura Khuda, with your infinite wisdom, follow the exceeding power of creative thinking that has become feeble in us, so that our path would become illuminated and our life become fluorescent. Now here see how inexistence is in contrast to existence, feebleness against excess, and aridness against fluorescent. It is good to remind you the conversation between bright thoughts and dark thoughts, that how they prove each other's existence. Every thesis defines its antithesis, and every agonist defines its antagonist. Is there any study about it? Yes. The famous Swiss psychologist Jean Piaget, in the cognition debate, mentions dynamic equilibrium. It means that our mind does two processes all the time: assimilation and accommodation. Assimilation as integrating concepts, accommodation as adjustment or reconciliation of changing circumstances. So, assimilation, accommodation. Our Khirad is doing this all the time. It is rather a mechanical interpretation of a verification of the uniqueness and prominence of our Khirad that Zarathustra made it distinct 3700 years ago. So now we go to session 4 of chapter 3, words. So let's get to session 4 without any wasting time. So session 4, words, correct application of correct words. The premise is words, converting thoughts, rationale, into words, and vice versa. The importance of correct usage of words and the usage of correct words. Remember the phrase, happened you always adorn my words with wisdom. In the light of wisdom, reveal to me your rights. This, in fact, with the cognition of this philosophy also means, may it be that you adorn my wisdom with right words too. Look at the weight and heaviness of the word rightness. Another citation, path is one path, the path of rightness. Rightness is prosperity, and prosperity is for who wants rightness, for the mere righteousness. The whole universe is heading to the right direction, and we have to ever consider rightness to prevent disorder to the God's will. See how meaningful and heavy this world Surush is its gravity and what a powerful ethical role it plays in this philosophy. Surush is the inner calling, the inspiration that human feels when pondering what is right according to the fountain of wisdom. It is the mind agency. Remember, I told you get back to this agency in psychology. The mind's court to the source. Surush is the agency between the fountain of wisdom and Akhira, which inspires us from the fountain of wisdom. When can I find the path towards the God of wisdom? And listen to the Surush, that inspirational agency of the great awareness. Another citation. Then you told me, as inspiration by Surush, to teach customs of the righteousness and not get disappointed of unruly, and strive to hear the key voice of Surush consciously. Another citation, O God of wisdom, with your bright words, do apparent your inspirational support for me, Zarathustra, and my fellows, so that I could obtain victory over the enmity of my enemies. Now, please observe the clause, your bright words have to aid to defeat the enmity, not enemy. The interpretation is we must, with bright mind, find out why there is enmity as a concept in the mind of the person who considers himself an enemy. Get to the bottom of things. And before the Great Selection Day, listen to all the discourses. Another citation, beware, bad mentor inverts the message and distracts the mind with diverted words. I challenge it with inspired heart. Another citation, O fountain of wisdom, let me know whether what I say and learn and tutor is truly right. O fountain of wisdom, let me know with the ones that I converse, which one is right doer and which one is wrong. Another citation, tell me how to stay away from unmerited. Another citation, O John Wasp Hogwai, probably one of the Magi's. Behold, I'm talking rhythmic hymn to you, not inchoate words. And the ethos have greatly was heard and survived through the millenniums by the epic efforts of the inheritors following the commander Ferdowsi, great Ferdowsi. More citations. O universal awareness, I will reveal your news to the knowledge seekers, and I will tell them that the fate of liars is suffering, and the fate of truth seekers is prosperity. With no doubt, happiness will face the one who tells these thought-provoking news to others. You see, the word news in Persian, payam, also means message, has tremendous cultural and social gravity. Zoroastrians, with a good reason, call Zarathustra a payambar, messenger of good news. We know computer programmers encode many intellectual tests and provide the answer to. Human brain does both, encode and decode the complex problems. The reason Zarathustra emphasizes the right word is that words are codes that we use to solve ours and others' problems. And usage of unfamiliar, rootless, and inane words don't just damage our purpose, they also idle our brain. Two psychologists, Peter Salovey and John Mayer, state in their debate on emotional intelligence that, for example, when someone learns a German word such as die Farbe, the color, he or she becomes aware that this word should be paired with the English word color. his or her brain also will create a trace in order to facilitate access to this concept in the future. The same applies to using futile words and making useless traces. David Hume, a Scottish philosopher, states, when a word doesn't have a direct thought or effect, it would only have a meaning when it is related to one of the four mental processes: compounding, from separate elements, transposing, transfer to different contexts, augmenting, be an addition, or diminishing. These are matters of facts. Mr. Hume means that the main reason this emphasis is the writer's. This emphasis is mine. We respect the great individuals such as Shakespeare, or particularly in Persian culture, Zarathustra as philosopher, Ferdowsi, Hafez, Khayyam, and other greats, is not because of the poems, but meaningful lyrics. Not just the poems, but meaningful lyrics. And we also mark those who use absurd words which we connect to idiocy. About the power of words, Nietzsche stated, all I need is a sheet of paper and a pen. Then I can turn the world upside down. Elizabeth Bowen, Irish writer, wrote, when I write, I have the same sensitivity to the light as a painter. Most of my writings are painting with words. John Locke, English philosopher, said, it is so hard to explain the incompleteness and meaninglessness of some words when all you are the words. George Orwell, English writer, wrote, if thoughts can corrupt language, then language can corrupt thoughts too. Al Davis, American coach, once said, one lie can tarnish 1,000 truths. Well, this philosophy taught us that also one truth might have the power of revealing 1,000 lies too. The great Ferdowsi, 1,000 years ago, recites in Shahnameh, literary king naming, I shall live forever by the seed of lyrics I have planted. Now we get to the session 5 of the chapter 3, unrestricted thinking. All right, session 5, unrestricted thinking. Unrestricted thinking, pondering, imagination. In Zarathustra's philosophy, human being finds meaning by contemplation. And for thought expansion, the sky is the limit. Therefore, the human intellect can't bear with any frames or casts, such as ideologies or fanatic cult-like brochures. Even dreaming has no limits. That's why the Americans truly say, make your own dreams or someone will hire you to make his. In fact, any perversion of the flowing of thoughts is considered anarchy. Zarathustra insists obtaining continuous education to be able to better distinguish niki, the better, and refrain from badi, badness, all with free will. On the other hand, the more limited the thoughts, the further the person deviates away from humane acts and niki, goodness, and inevitably badness will prevail. Citation from the Gathas. O bearer of the just and wisdom, provider of bountiful joy, may we preserve in the lights of your wisdom our rights and customs and belief with proper recognition. Here, Zarathustra by lights of wisdom means the limitless nature of wisdom's expansion of thoughts, and by proper recognition means the related knowledge. Citation: your heavenly power reaches the ones who benefit from the wisdom that you have gifted. He clearly indicates that insisting on careless stupidity takes us apart from a fountain of wisdom and contradicts it. Another citation: Righteous thoughts will spread the wisdom trends which are immune from deception to the world. So interpretation is righteous thoughts, is scaled knowledge, and the world is the limitlessness. Prosperity is thinking in tranquility. Another citation, oh great wisdom. When a deceiver tries to delude me, what will aid me and assist me but the righteous flame in me that blazes towards you, and the wisdom in me that flies towards you, O great awareness. With the recognition of the rights and customs of the righteousness, we benefit the light of your great wisdom and beget strength. And the last one, whatever you hear from me, Zarathustra, deliberate and verify by the righteous khrat, wisdom, and the clear and bright manners, and then accept it. Here are two citations from Avesta in the Yasht sections, which are inspired from Zarathustra and also are inspired by him via Surush, the agency, the inspiration from Fountain of Wisdom. O righteousness, Zarathustra, by the mediation of my fountain of knowledge, comprehend how the ultimate life is, now and in the future. How in the future can be. Another citation, there is nobody in all over the universe to be as fortunate as the heavenly mayor, which I mentioned before. It means amour and unconditional love, to enjoy the gift of wisdom. Remember John Locke, he stated in a natural state, all people are equal and independent, and everyone has the right to defend his or her life, health, and liberty and possessions if justified from beginning. He is considered the founder of libertarianism and a starter of Enlightenment era. Many consider American Declaration of Independence inspired from him. He was attracted to Protestantism and went to France to be a spectator in the conflict between them and the Catholics. He believed God created human for the final salvation, has given power of wisdom to human to discover God, obtain knowledge and progress a happy life. He states all human beings are naturally free, but not with a complete license, because it is in the limitations of the nature's laws, considered equal opportunity central, and superiority only for the wise maker, God. He was calling God the wise maker. Every human's body belongs to him, herself, and in order to be touched, permission is acquired. Permission is necessary. Like stated, government is only for protecting people's natural rights and punishing whoever invades these rights. The scholars consider him the founder of individualism and association psychology, and dual ideas of particular ideas and general ideas. It's similar to Zarathustra's clashing the ideas from general to particular. We talked about John Locke and libertarianism and limitless flight of thoughts. Now, Ayn Rand must be noted. Ayn Rand was a Russian Jewish lady. I have to tell you this story. Her original name was Alisa Zinovievna Rosenbaum. This is a free thinker's story of metamorphosis. She was just a schoolgirl when the Bolshevism, communist revolution in Russia occurred. In her city, St. Petersburg, they expelled her from school for the crime of being bourgeois class, which now we know means successful people. Her family, with difficulties, finds some influential communist acquaintances to accept her back to school. She gets high school diploma and goes to university and graduates in history. She once again gets expelled from university, but manages to get back through the communist acquaintances again. After graduation, she gets out of Russia with the help of her relatives and goes to America. She escapes to America, falls in love with New York, but ultimately ends up in Los Angeles and Hollywood. She became acquainted with a Canadian scholar husband and wife, Nathaniel and Barbara Brandon. They helped her to publish her School of Objectivism. Ultimately, she befriended two other American Canadian women named Rose Wilder Lane, the author of Discovery of Freedom, and Isabel Patterson, the author of God of the Machine. Great books. Great books. I recommend you to read them. Together, they founded libertarianism, to free libertarianism, a new libertarianism, in fact, to free libertarianism from the anarchists, left wings, philosophy hijackers, and fake Democrats. These anarchists I say here are the anarchists, the school of anarchists, not the anarchy Zarathustra is talking about in general, and shaped it as its true meaning. Ayan, in her philosophy, emphasized individualism and free will. She rejected theocracy, absolute monarchy. She was pro constitutional kingdom. Rejected fascism, communism, command socialism, and dictatorship. She only believed in laissez-faire capitalism, capitalism with minimum government involvement and maximum general comfort of free trades and competitions. Ayan married an American man but never had any children. She wrote two books giving philosophical identity for the modern free economy. Atlas Shrugged and The Fountainhead. In 1981, Ayan passed away without seeing salvation of her beloved Russia in 1990. Ayan stated that communists destroy individuality and come with a false sense of morals and altruism, and capitalism should be emphasized by ethical principles. Ayan's opinion about God was take care of yourself, your health, and well being, you are worshiping God. When I say thank God, I mean the highest possible way of thanks. And thank God for America. She loved America. She rejected feminism as it would undermine individuality. Now, why I say this? Because just see the power of free thinking. One woman. And she died. She passed away in 1981. She couldn't see the collapse of communism, but she predicted it. She wrote those books, and she helped it. And she was one of the pioneers for that. Libertarians have a branch in the Republican Party of the United States, also in the Conservative Party of Canada. They have a participant. And Dr. Jordan Peterson, a Canadian professor, psychologist at the University of Toronto, very famously gives lectures around the world trying to untie these knots. He states that the world's biggest problem today is the ideological identity. He states political correctness has two versions, egalitarianism and authoritarianism. Then he relates libertarianism and conservatism to the school of human equality, and authoritarianism to being offensive, offense sensitive. He states in the universities we have become corrupt and less reliant on science, and instead of intelligent conversation, we are having an ideological conversation. The students are unaware of mass exterminations of the Stalinism and Maoism, which weren't given the same attention as fascism and Nazism. Professor Peterson means that this is what I'm saying. That's what he means. Means these authoritative isms and some other that they haven't mentioned here. We're all malignant, and we have to point out all of them. But well, the influence of left wings in the media and the academics prevent it. If you download the book, you see all these books in the references, and you can provide for yourself. Dr. Peterson has a famous quote: "The main motive of the Marxists was mostly hate for successful people than sympathy for the poor." So we get to the session 6 of chapter 3, consistently distinguishing the right and wrong. Let's get to session 6 of chapter 3. Session 6, consistently distinguishing right and wrong, archy and anarchy. Zarathustra insists clearly there are two versions in every premise, right or wrong, good or bad, and emphasizes as human, we must utilize our wisdom to differentiate the right way in a particular time, place, and condition for a particular cause. This is the necessity of constant advancement. Clint Eastwood, the famous director, once answering the interviewer about why he still makes movies, said, "When I was a kid, my father told me you either advance or rot." This is a bitter reality, but it is true. Zarathustra's lessons are hard, but liberating. Every woman and man has a duty to learn the right way and pass it on, the right empirical way. Everything else can be considered as superstitions. A few advices from Gothas. Citation: "Bright mind told the dark mind for us, there is no compliance of wisdom, customs, beliefs, and none of words, and none of deeds, and none of consciousness, and none of psyche and soul ever." Citation: "Of the one who chooses rightness, the power of righteousness, and self-valor, and good thoughts will be bestowed to, and will achieve serenity. They are who on your path, God, have passed the selection test." I have many whisperings, but hopefully you don't recognize them. But if you do, you accept my apology. Zarathustra clearly states the basic task of our intelligence is, all the time, differentiating between real and fake of the all concepts. Then we can find better solutions. A Persian proverb states, "If the bricklayer places the first row of bricks crooked, the wall will go crooked sky high." Zarathustra but means every brick should be considered the first one. Here Zarathustra states the exact opposite of the intelligence building block. This is very important. It is printed, I printed with bold fonts. Here Zarathustra states the exact opposite of the intelligence building block theory. The theory, which is a common knowledge in the academic world, the theory states basic cognitive processes are the building blocks of intelligence. Zarathustra says the process of intelligence are the building blocks of cognition. Exactly opposite. The theory says the theory says cognition is the building blocks of intelligence, but Zarathustra's philosophy presumably says the intelligence is the building blocks of cognition, and we talk about it. Intelligence processes build up cognition. The reason is because it is its job. It has been gifted to us for the constant recognition of rights and wrongs. Now, why there is this ambiguity? Remember Dr. Peterson mentioning the influence of left wings, not for this particular matter, but in general. Influence of the left wing's ideologies on the academic world. It applies to this one too. It is pushed in academic world that human is ultimately an evolved animal and don't consider human wisdom a gift from God. That Zarathustra elaborates. The $1,000,000 question is why other animals don't evolve to become intelligent? Well, they have cognition, as they say. They have cognition, don't they? Scientists and scholars and psychologists innovate and develop practices and tests for brain all the time for the purpose of using intelligence more efficiently. But according to Zarathustra, seeking and obtaining knowledge is the best brain practice to expand our mind's strength. A few Greek philosophers had some similar thoughts to Zarathustra's. Some of them have even mentioned his name as inspiration. One of them was Epictetus, who propagated the school of Stoic. Epictetus was originally from Hierapolis of Phrygia. That place is now named Pamukkale in West Turkey. He has two famous books, Discourses, written by himself, and Enchiridion, his collected handwritten texts by his apprentice Arian. A Stoic school places everything in two categories, things we can control or pro-heretic, and things we can't control or apro-heretic. Epictetus believed that our power is in our own work, our opinions, impulses, desires, and aversions. What is not in our control is our body functions, depreciation of our possessions, our glory, power. Any delusion in this regard may lead us to misfortunes, troubles, and soul tangles. Epictetus believed that we all have a common preconception or prolepsis of good and evil. Good alone is profitable and to be desired, and evil is hurtful and to be avoided. Different opinions arise only from the application of these preconceptions to particular cases, and it is then that the darkness of ignorance, which blindly maintains the correctness of its own opinion, must be dispelled. People entertain different and conflicting opinions of good, and in their judgment of a particular good, people frequently contradict themselves. Philosophy should provide a standard for good and evil. It is printed with bold fonts. Philosophy should provide a standard for good and evil. This process is greatly facilitated because the mind and the works of the mind are alone in our power, whereas all external things that aid life are beyond our control. Well, remember, just like Iran mentioned ethical standards. He doesn't tell us what standards. However, I see nothing but purity in Zarathustra's ethical standards. Epictetus' quotes are mind-blowing. He has said, the world turns aside and let a man pass who knows where he is going. You may fetter my leg, but Zeus, the god of gods in ancient Greece, sportingly put, the Zeus himself can't get the better of my free will and keep the company with people who uplift you. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the view they take from them. And he who laughs at himself never runs out of things to laugh. John Locke, the English philosopher, has a principle called empiricism. He states, all the knowledge, including ethical, comes from experience, and it is not intrinsic in his political theory. He stressed that political power for making social comfort laws and regulations and legislate them is a right. Political power is not just a capacity, it is a capacity with ethical commitment. These all become legitimate with society. He means ethical rules and standards. Ethical rules and standards. And my standards are from Zarathustra's philosophy. Me, myself, I'm talking about myself. But Nietzsche, this rule breaking and extraordinary philosopher who rejected everybody, you know, in all, you must have a set of values. You must have ethical standards. Now, go and fight for yourself. Mine is this. But Nietzsche, this rule breaking and extraordinary philosopher who rejected everybody, including Descartes, Hume, Kant, and of course Plato, was fascinated by the niche and bad of Zarathustra. Nietzsche states that Zarathustra gave the gift of Overman, Uberman, or Superman to the mankind. Zarathustra presents the Overman as a creator of new values, constantly. The Overman doesn't follow the morality of common people, since that favors mediocrity, but instead rises above the notion of good and evil and above the hurt. He wants a kind of spiritual evolution of self awareness and overcoming of traditional views on morality and justice beyond the things that stem from the superstition. He famously said, I was in darkness. It took me 3 steps to get to paradise. Good thoughts, good goals, and good deeds. You know, of Zarathustra's philosophy pillars we talked about. He meant the values must be verified all the time. And he got this from Zarathustra. This one value system became a common premise in modern social science. Max Weber, German sociologist, you know, the father of the sociology in the Western world, and Martin Heidegger, a German philosopher, absorbed it and made it their own. Aristotle was influenced by Zarathustra, saying the universe was made of 4 elements: soil, water, air, and fire. But he believed the earth was the center of the universe. Zarathustra but considered the sun the center of the universe. Sun is the center of solar system. And it is interesting considering the fact that Zarathustra lived 1,000 years before Aristotle. It makes a Persian proud that how advanced his contemplating was. Zarathustra's contemplating. Aristotle states if there is no physical mass, there is no place either. The same thing that Newton was naming space. Zarathustra states yet again the opposite. If there is no intellect, khirat, and its controlled intelligence, there will be no place, no space, no physical mass or body, no time and no motion, and no concept of any of them whatsoever. With this perspective, Zarathustra raises above all. And we always get back to the most important principle. If there is intellect, khirat, then there is everything. If there is no intellect, khirat, then there is nothing. Void. Aristotle says God is the thought of thoughts. All the plants and animals have soul. But the vegetarians should pay attention to this. All the plants and animals have soul. I'm not saying he's saying. So you're happy you're just eating vegetables. So. But humans have soul and also reason. Human is a rational and or logical animal. Zarathustra considers soul and intellect separate from one another, and because of the intellect, he considers human being distinct from everything else. Aristotle mentions a good life is dependent on 3 matters: philosophical life, political life, and voluptuary life. This triad provides the key to his ethical quest. Zarathustra is not looking for voluptuary life, but meek, deliberated life. Intrinsic pleasure, not superficial, not virtue, but right way and angle for everything, including social, political, and economical, which will be achieved through righteousness. So session 6 ends here, and chapter 3 and the last session is session 7 is identity. Right, section 7 is identity. Let's get to it. Identity. This section is very important, and actually the main reason I write these essays. I am an Iranian of Persian ancestry, Pars or Fars in Persian. The Greeks called us Persos, and our country Persia, and they still do. This Persian dialect that we speak today was innovated by great Ferdowsi more than 1,000 years ago, and still emanated from Pahlavi form to be lingua franca among Persian speakers all over the world. However, and it was very successful. However, we have many accents and dialects and forms of Persian language all over the Persian regions, just like the north of Iran, where the writer's my parents, were from, or northeast of Iran, the land that created the Great Ferdowsi, and in fact, all over today's Iran, except Azerbaijan with non-Iranian Turkish language, because of immigrated Turkish tribes through centuries and also being adopted and mixed with locals, and Kurdistan with Kurdish and Iranian Persian twin language. Other parts mostly have many original Persian words in their local communications, and also in Iranian Persian speaking regions, which expand way beyond the Persian regions in today's Iran, such as Afghanistan and Tajikistan and parts of Uzbekistan, also outside today's borders of Iran. The fact is that no matter what accent, such as Tehrani, Shirazi, Isfahani, Khorasani, Mazani, and Gilaki, Lori, Yazdi, Kermani, Semnani, Bandari, Sistani, Dari, Afghanistan, Samarkandi, Bukhara in Uzbekistan, Tajiki in Tajikistan, we all can communicate in Persian. And there is also Baluchi accent, but I don't have much information about it. I can't say if it's an accent or a language. And the reason I'm mentioning it here is because it is important to know that despite usage of many Arabic words that were formed or deformed and adopted by the great Persian poets such as Rudaki, Sadi, Hafiz, Khayyam, Molavi, Rumi, and so on, the base is still the Caucasian Ferdowsi's base and used the same as we all understand. We also later on we adapted, despite the fact that we gifted many words to the world languages, mostly Caucasian or European languages, but also we also adopted many French words and also English words. The writer is sure that in Iran, from the shores of Caspian Sea of the north to the Abadan of the south, and from west of Kermanshah to the east of Khorasan, there are many and thousands of original Persian words being used. Also in the twin language of Kurdish, the same, which needs its own expert. And of course, in the Turkish language of the northwest, There are so many Persian words that the Persians mostly understand the agendas when they hear the conversation. The important matter is to know with all these accents, Persian is a Caucasian language along with Kurdish, but Turkish is an Altaic, Northern Oriental language, and Arabic is a Semitic language. Now, identity and Zarathustra. Of the 17 citations in the Gathas, which are 238 segments, in 47 of them, Zarathustra has emphasized the Persian ceremonies, rituals, formalities, culture, and heritage. In 10 of them, recommends keeping the Gathas and heritage intact to the king at the time and to his daughter. This shows us how much he valued the love of nationality, language, and heritage. Well, he always speaks worldly and of the universal wisdom, but as I mentioned before, the world of Persia was the only empire in the world. Then, after a millennium, the Greeks had the same worldly view. Then, the same thing occurred afterwards for Romans. And the worldly view, Zarathustra, was not an exception. That's why it seems perfectly logical that Zarathustra was born in Rey, the ancient city south of today's Tehran, the biggest civilized city 3,700 years ago in ancient Persia. And such a city had the capacity to develop such a philosopher. Citations regarding heritage. With my hands raised, O worldly awareness, I praise you and desire modestly prosperity. From you may all my deeds and harmonized by the Nik Kharat, pure wisdom, and thoughts and the righteousness ceremonies, so that you, God, will be pleased and the fertile fields joyful. Another citation, the Nik scaled thoughts will teach the Khrat's customs, the concepts made, which has no bias of deception to the worldly. Another citation, O knowledgeable God, it is with the recognition of our righteous heritage that we obtain the light of your wisdom and with power. Another citation, then you told me to teach the laws, principles of righteousness, and not be disappointed from the disorderly, and thrive to listen to the guiding voice of Surush, the inspired calling. It is very important the fact that a nation, people from a region have one shared and common calling within. The difference is being either monolithic and united or apart and divided piece by piece by being hovered around. More about this later. Another citation, O fountain of wisdom, tell me what is the set of laws that is better of all for the universe, the set of laws of righteousness that advances the world and leads our lives to serenity. By serenity, he means confidence. Another citation, O Zarathustra, who is your righteous friend, the one that is willing to give good names to all and the progress of Magi assembly. I call people with wise words, so that they find way to your paradise, which means paradise, or universal awareness. A nation that has common customs and rights and principles and national traditions and language can also have Magi and Joman, assembly of wisdom seekers. The assemblies of intellectuals, scholars, technocrats, have no doubt means running every task by the hand of the one who has the related knowledge. In short, meritocracy. Citation, O children of the Hijdasp Spanterman, assembly member. Now I educate you something that is better than everything you learn for distinguishing neat from bad, There is only one way, and that is being harmonized with the laws of righteousness. For these laws are eternal and deliver us to the fountain of wisdom. With the familiarity that we have from Zarathustra's philosophy, we know he means that if we want being, we have to preserve our cultural and national identity and principles to stay eternal, or otherwise there will be vanity. Another citation, O wisdom seeker, John Moss Hagwa, assembly member. At this time I instruct you not by prose dialect, but by poetry, so that you hear it and learn it by heart. Whoever can distinguish the neat from bad, the fountain of wisdom will guard him, her in the right of righteousness. Here we realize why the great Ferdowsi created and wrote the Shahnameh, the king naming, with poetry. He kept the Persian customary trend. Citation, O universal wisdom, Mazda, God's or Khuda's nickname. I, Zarathustra, the dedicated to righteousness by the loud calling, by the wisdom invoker, Gathas, praise you. May all my words be adorned by your wisdom, and may you reveal to me with the gleams of neat thoughts your customs and rightness. It means everything to be devoted to the civil related rites, customs, ceremonies, and Persian traditions to be revealed eternally. Everything the gathas, righteousness, the unique thoughts, the bright wisdom, all. We are persuading this for 3,700 years and still thriving and striving. Citation. Then you also, with the unique, hear me true thoughts, words, and deeds, head towards the universal wisdom and open your heart and mind to the Mazda, great awareness. K. Gashtasp, king at the time, the supporter of Zarathustra and the wise Farshustar of the wise, have chosen the manners that the great awareness, Ahura Khuda, God, has revealed to the benefit givers, the Sushiyans. Sushiyans were emancipators. Zarathustra in this citation doesn't leave any tolerance for the fact that these customs and manners must be hierarchically preserved. The support of king is epic. A few citations of Gathas regarding identity. Never listen to the criminals, because behold, a criminal with no doubt will destroy home, city, and country. Here Zarathustra clearly enlightens the importance of preserving city and county and country based on national customs. Another citation, O knowledgeable God, I realized you as progressive when the bright mind descended upon me, inspired by Surush, and asked, who are you and from whom are you? And what way you have found against the complexity of daily life, yourself and the world? This is a very good question. If an individual not to be able to clarify the complexities of his her life, which, as we learned, could lead to anarchy, disorder, what does Zarathustra exactly mean? You see, what Zarathustra alludes of an asha is the same as anarchy. Asha is archy. The writer will elaborate on this matter in the future. The rhetoric question that Zarathustra is asking in the above citation is that if you are with the customs of wisdom givers, righteousness, then you are somebody. You are a who. As we noticed, either the wisdom is there and so everything else, or there is no wisdom and not anything else. Zarathustra doesn't mean physically masses when he emphasizes eternity, but customs, traditions, country identity, nationality, culture, language, all valuable intangibles. Hafiz, one of the greatest Persian poets, cites that one who has the heart alive with mehr, amor, unconditional love, never dies. Our durability is recorded into the history of the universe. Khayyam, the great poet and polymath, cites the quatrain, "O wishes, our place was a place of comfort, or this long journey had to be reached. O wishes, beyond 100,000 years from the dust, a hope of blossoming like greens would have been there." We mentioned that Iranian nationalism is amorous, meaning it is with mehr, amor, unconditional love. Why? There are many misunderstandings, misinterpretations, and misrepresentations of nationalism, mostly by biased globalists. Global thinking is okay. Being a globalist is not. Nationalism is not bad. The fascists that biased globalists distortedly call nationalism bad. How could a school of love of nation and all national parameters, where someone is born, be bad? The ones who are ruthless, idealists, locked to an interna- internationalist anarchist sect or cult, party, or poisonous liberty, bribery ideology do this propaganda. Of course, the advice of Zarathustra's philosophy is kindly staying away, not aggressively rejecting. All the successful countries have a strong sense of nationality. Examples: Germany, Japan, Great Britain, United States, Canada, Australia, and almost most of the advanced European countries. American philosopher Jeremy Horne mentions the French proverb, raison d'être, the reason of existence. The existence of the country or state identity is inevitable. Very interestingly, he says, its being is hierarchy and lack of it is anarchy. Now, this anarchy is similar to what Zarathustra is alluding. It conveys the same meaning. We know that archy in Greek means many things: beginning, primary, and also the right as straight, and just, the foundation of justice. With that, an makes it negative, as unright, unjust, ruthless, foundless, identityless, credentialless. Zarathustra considers having no credibility as anarchy, and anarchy as lack of credibility. As we know, the contradictories, thesis and antithesis, give meaning to each other. We all know Abraham Lincoln. He's the one who, by developing sense of nationalism, united the Americans. Well, there was wars and conflicts. Lincoln created a conservative republican system. The writer has to point out that for Iran, the writer's country, the writer only sees the possibility of any modern political activity, healthy political activity, under the symbolism of kingdom. That's it, and nothing else. Anything else wouldn't have any political effectiveness or national effectiveness. Only under the symbolism of kingdom it is possible. The writer has no intention to propound political philosophy, but for the sake of national identity and its importance, some iconic figures should be mentioned. The United States, as the biggest son of British Empire, despite of becoming independent as a superpower of the world, it still has strong ties with its English-British roots. Every American president, after being elected, either meets the Queen, presently the King, or they have conversations. Of course, you know that Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and the strongest free capitalist world's democracies, are the United Kingdom kingdom's dominions. Lincoln had the idea that with conservative republic for the prevention of separatism, there was a need for a nationalist union, and he established it. He united Americans with the slogan "First America," and now we see the results. Many consider Lincoln a libertarian, conservative, or classic liberal, also the most extreme nationalist in the history of the United States, and a follower of John Locke. The English philosopher John Locke, creator of libertarianism, that inspired Lincoln to create the America we see today. He himself was a defender of English philosopher Ashley Cooper, who in turn was a defender and loyalist to the constitutional monarchy. John Locke had a special emphasis regarding credentials and national identity, and considered that equivalent to the individual's consciousness. You see how important it is to know the dependency of the environmental cognition to the conscience of the individual, which the lack of it makes the individual indifferent and oblivious. Maybe this is the reason we never hear a German or a Danish would throw out a piece of garbage on the street. By the way, it is very harshly frowned upon in Canada too. John Locke stated our memory or retentive faculty transfers our national credentials and identity, knowledge, and personal and patriotic experiences from week to week, year to year, and generation to generation. Zarathustra reveals to us archy as credibility and anarchy as incredibility. You know, sometimes it makes you envy these European and American philosophers because they have understood Persian ancient philosophy better than ourselves. Likely, Descartes shows Zarathustra's influence when he states, unless people believe in God and immortality, they won't see any reason to be moral or consider ethical principles, similar to Zarathustra's claim. He also wrote humans should be mindfulness about control over their passions. Human being can't exist alone and must be part of social groups, such as families and nations. The word nation comes from the Latin word being born. He also states it is better to wish the good for the group instead of oneself. Very similar to Zarathustra's advice, well, self-sanity being first. Aristotle taught state, polis in Greek, in Persian, Istaşahr, is the highest rank of the society, which has to be conveyed the highest goodness. A nationalistic view. Aristotle lectured government. By this he means sovereignty. Either can be by a single person for the general good as monarchy or kingdom, or for private benefit and arbitrary exercise as tyranny, or by a minority for the state's best interest as aristocracy, or for the benefit of a ruling minority as oligarchy. Tyranny contradicts monarchy, and oligarchy contradicts aristocracy. And interestingly, Aristotle himself considered monarchy the best method and reserved democracy for the anarchic mobs, despite the fact that the iconic political teacher of the West has rejected democracy. All the Western countries, for publicity, call themselves democracy, which is correct as figure of speech, not philosophically. Their governments are people-oriented, but their political system is parliamentary election based on people's representatives, supervised either by kingdom, such as England, or by presidency, such as the United States. So we are getting to the end of it. There is only epilogue left. So there is only epilogue left. Aristotle has mentioned an agenda that made the writer reviewed the great Ferdowsi and his Shahnameh, literary king naming, but famous as the Epic of Kings. Aristotle states tragedy, as it gets shaped in human history, just like the happy celebrations, must contain episodes arousing pity and fear so as to achieve a purification of these emotions. No one is quite sure exactly what Aristotle meant by catharsis or purification. Even Shakespeare can be reviewed in a new way with this perspective. He meant watching tragedy helps people to put their own sorrows and worries in perspective because in it they observe how catastrophe can overtake even people who are vastly their superiors and then encounter an epiphany. But hopefully all the Western world has passed these stages, despite the fact that we are having it. Our backgrounds are having it. Or we're in Canada. It's a great country. Wasn't Ferdowsi a master of tragedy with Shahnameh? I end this book with a line from Ferdowsi. Thou shall always be in the guidance of wisdom. Hence, that would keep the unmerited in distance. May the God of soul and wisdom be with you. Thank you very much and best wishes.